The force on the ground that we face today in Ukraine is infinitely stronger and more capable and lethal than what existed in January of 2022. We've done that. We've induced the Russians to make those investments and expand. The Ukrainians don't have much. Now, when we say much, what does much mean? How effective can a force be when it consists of German, Czech, Dutch, Lithuanian, British, French equipment? And if you go back and look at the Second World War, one of the key lessons that we in the West tended to learn from the experience of the Germans in the East was the criticality of minimizing the diversity of equipment. In other words, use as many of the same engines as you can. In other words, simplify the resupply of forces and repair parts and the logistical infrastructure. At one point, if you go back and look at someone like General Balk's memoirs, he talks about 7 different vehicles with 7 different engines and 7 different supply and repair part infrastructure requirements on the Eastern Front in his divisional formation. And he only at that point had a division of perhaps 9 or 10,000. And it was a nightmare to keep all of these different systems running because you never had enough to service everything. Well, this is the Ukrainian position now. They have too many different pieces of equipment. How do you keep them all running? And there's a tendency now to use it. If it breaks down, dump it, go get another something, replace it, and move on. That's very difficult to do over time. It's going to become more difficult when the Russians are breathing down your neck. Remember that the Russians have been defending largely. In other words, they ceded the operational initiative, in a sense, to the Ukrainians by allowing them to organize, mobilize, assemble, and attack. Well, the Ukrainians haven't got much left to do that with. I told you what I think they have left and what they might be able to do. But then you have the equipment nightmare, the resupply nightmare. And these nightmares aren't getting any better. Whereas on the Russian side, the situation is infinitely better now. They've moved forward large caches of equipment and ammunition. Things are positioned where they can be rapidly pushed forward and resupply their troops. Ukrainians don't have any of that going on right now. The Russians are not operating to our timetable. They're not trying to outperform Guderian's advances across eastern Ukraine. They're trying to achieve an objective, which is to utterly destroy